Zwom. Doot, 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 doot. BMO.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another BMO Creative crypto video. So this one is about the Starnake. And yes, it is another Sasquatch tribe. Several Native American tribes, as well as Scandinavians, Norsemen, and Estonians, all otherwise known as Vikings, have passed down legends of ethnic groups of pale-skinned giants who were wiped out. Such legends including those among the Choctaw and the Comanches of the United States, down to the Manta of Peru. The Starnake were on average 9 to 11 feet tall, with light skin, sometimes albino, which made them stay out of the sun, and they were very hairy, most of them. They often had red hair and light eyes. 6 fingers and toes and extra rows of teeth were very common among this people. They had their own language and could speak the language of other tribes as well, and as language of animals also, and lived a long time. Some records indicate well over 150 years was average. They knew metalwork, stonework, and were amazing miners and craftsmen. Their medicine was a mix of ritual and herbs and ground minerals. Some stories say they made a rub that they rubbed on their bodies that could make them blend into their surroundings if they weren't wearing any clothing. Which is why maybe people see them today not wearing any clothing. There are stories of them having large teeth and even horns sometimes. Both male and female were often described as being naked to the waist and wore leathers and wood, metal, and stone clothing, and were great hunters, gatherers, and fishermen, as well as cannibals of other tribes. After coming to the Americas, some stayed with their traditions, others went much more feral, more naked, more wild. Estonians say they got their horned helmet idea for spiritual ritual from these giants. No, Vikings did not wear horned helmets in battle. That's just in the movies and comic books. But current media says this is a popular myth originated from 19th century art and costumes, especially for Richard Wagner's operas. Historical evidence shows they wore simple iron helmets with only one complete Viking helmet, the Geirmundur helmet, found featuring no horns. It was just a simple metal helmet. But media has removed giants from the story completely and say the idea was a creative invention by costume designer Carl Emil Doppler for Wagner's Ring Cycle, drawing an older, non-Viking ceremonial headgear, which is the headgear that the Estonians say they got the idea from these giants. Anyway, legends of Norsemen and Native American tribes also say that they sometimes intermarried with them, and these became the dwarves and the Moon-Eyed people, who are both known for being smaller size, but still very strong and long-lived, both having a propensity to dwell underground, especially in the daytime, because of the sensitivity to the sun. Cushman said Nahulo came to be used to describe all pale-skinned people, but it originally referred specifically to giant hairy pale tribes with whom the Choctaw came in contact when they first crossed the Mississippi River. The Nahulo were said to be cannibals whom the Choctaw killed whenever the opportunity arose. Chief Rolling Thunder of the Comanches, which is a tribe from the Great Plains, gave the following account of an ancient race of pale giants in 1857. And he said, "Innumerable moons ago, a race of white men, 10 feet high at least, and far more rich and powerful than any white people now living here, inhabited a large range of country, extending from the rising to the setting sun. Their fortifications crowned the summits of the mountains, protecting their populous cities situated in the intervening valleys. They made hills to bury their dead. They excelled every other nation which flourished, either before or since, in all manner of cutting and handicraft, were brave and warlike, ruling over the land they had taken from its ancient possessors, with a high and haughty hand. Compared with them, the pale faces of the present day are pygmies, in both art and arms. They were either extinguished or went back to the heavens, or they went underground. The chief explained that when this race forgot justice and mercy and became too proud, the Great Spirit wiped it out, and all that was left of their society were the mounds still visible on the tablelands. This account was documented by Dr. Donald Panther Yates, a researcher and author of books on Native American history. In 1853, Pedro Cieza de Leon wrote in a book he called A Chronicle of Peru about legendary giants described to him by the Manta indigenous people. There are, however, reports, he said, concerning giants in Peru who landed on the coast at the point of Santa Elena. The natives relate the following tradition, which had been received from their ancestors from very remote times. And this is what they said. There arrived on the coast in boats made of reeds as big as large as ships, a party of men of such size that from the knee downwards their height was as great as the entire height of an ordinary man, though he might be of good stature. Their limbs were all in proportion to the deformed size of their bodies, and it was a monstrous thing to see their heads, with their hair reaching down to their shoulders. Their eyes were as large as small plates. Leon said that the sexual habits of the giants were revolting to the natives, and heaven eventually wiped out the giants because of those habits. The Paiutes have an oral tradition that told of red-haired, pale cannibals about 10 feet tall who lived in or near what is now known as Lovelock Cave in Nevada. I've talked about the huge sandals, tools, and duck decoys found there, not to mention large skeletons along with smaller human remains that have been found there, and a few of the human bones had the marrow removed, suggesting the marrow was eaten. Miners unearthed the artifacts in 1912, leaving them in a pile before eventually contacting the University of California. Big mistake. Anthropologist Llewellyn L. Loud traveled from the university to the site to investigate. It is commonly agreed that the excavation of the site was not handled well, to say it mildly, and certainly not up to modern standards. But some proponents of the Sitka, which is the names of those giants that were there, say that the researchers have deliberately covered up and destroyed any giant remains found there, which is what the Smithsonian admitted to. So, anyway, Horatio Bardwell Cushman wrote in his 1899 book, History of the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and the Natchez Indians, quote, "The tradition of the Chickasaws told of a race of giants that once inhabited the now state of Tennessee, and with whom their ancestors fought when they arrived in Mississippi in their migration from the west. Their tradition states the Nahulo, tribe of pale giants, was of wonderful large stature." So, all of that being said, what do you think of the pale giants of the north and the underground? Leave a comment below. Okay, that is going to do it for this one. Thanks so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to BMO Creative for more crypto videos. Thanks so much. Bye.